So welcome everyone to our Thursday webinar, and today we are talking about functional lab testing. As I said earlier, I pulled up a bunch of test cases. I think it'll be a lot of fun and pretty interesting to see these labs close up. I would say that it's like the sexiest part of functional medicine is, getting these tests run and getting your results. It's just exciting, and it bears a lot of insight into your case when things have been really stubborn. Maybe you're learning about functional medicine, you're hearing about parasites or mold, and you're like, do I have that? Well, this is how you find out. So everyone in the US, for a couple states that are tricky, but most of these tests are available in the US. Going outside of the country, we do ask you to contact us because there's special regulations and limits up in there. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my example labs. And these are upside down. Oh, letting me flip them now. Okay. There we go. Everybody can see this okay? Oh, this is silly. I have to flip every page individually, seems like. These did not come out like they're supposed to. It's okay. We are going to make the best of it. It didn't scan every single page, and a bunch of them are upside down. So I'm going to start with this case. Yeah, it's funny. I'm missing a bunch of pages. So this client, we'll actually learn more about her later, but she got what we call the Big 3 run. It's 3 labs, and it's this GI map stool test that we're focusing on first. And then it's a blood test with thyroid, some blood sugar, some red blood cell markers. And then the last test is a urinary hormone test called the Dutch test. So this woman, will see from her blood test, she has low thyroid and autoimmune thyroid. So it's kind of playing into her metabolism, her stomach acid production, and saying something about her immunity. So your gut health is very much tied to autoimmunity. So it's really interesting that she had all these tests run together and found out so many pieces of the puzzle at once. So usually on the first page of the GI map, these are acute infections and nothing is really happening here. But occasionally we do see something elevated. I think it's just kind of there's imbalance in the body, some like old infections that are still hanging around. Okay, I gotta flip this page. Let me make sure this is her page too. Yeah, so she had like a little bit of positive H. pylori, but not super high, but I'll still probably work on this for at least a month because it can lower her stomach acid production even more, maybe already first lowered by her thyroid case. And then it affects her digestion the rest of the way down, which we don't have that robust stomach acid. So she was like a little low, not very low, and some friendly bacteria, a little high, so to speak, and some other friendly bacteria, which is kind of debatable, but sometimes these are spiking because of other conditions like MS is one of them. I'm not focused on that too much. She did have several elevated unfriendly bacteria, you can see here. So we treat kind of these all at once. This is called dysbiosis. So maybe a little low in some friendly, high in some unfriendly. She was above range for this Klebsiella bacteria that can be connected to autoimmunity. So I think this one is related to rheumatoid arthritis. A lot of them are for some reason, but I like to look them up. And if it's in the family history, or like say she's already got one autoimmune disease, which we do know about, We don't want to have any other autoimmune triggers going on. So she didn't have candida. This isn't the best test of candida, but she was negative. Oh my gosh, I have to flip all these pages over. She did have a worm. She had a parasite called Dientamoeba fragilis, and that is associated with Hashimoto's. So that's really interesting. So we're definitely going to work on clearing that parasite. She also had a high amount of fat in her stool. So she's not breaking down fat. So we might need to look at her gallbladder. I think I gave her something for that. Look at enzymes, look at stomach acid. And then she was low in the secretory IgA, which is a mucosal lining that protects you. It's the outer layer of your gut protection. So it's showing some weak immunity, maybe that she's under emotional stress, and she's certainly under some physical stress with all these infections in her gut. Despite that, in this moment, she wasn't showing as having leaky gut with this zonulin score in range, but this chest score can change. So it could be some days she's high, some days she's low, but at this point she was low. She wasn't positive for gluten. It's funny how things happen like in a row. Like lately, I'm not finding anyone positive for gluten intolerance, but other days I find everybody. So there are other ways to test gluten, but this is one of the ways right here, this anti-gliadin IgA. So this woman, now that we have so many upside down slides and stuff, I don't know if I'll give you another case, but let me see what I've got here. It's a bummer they didn't all print. I think that gives you some good idea. As I mentioned, if you have a strong enough candida infection, this may show here. It often will show when you have toxic mold, but not every single time. Let me see a couple of questions. So let me. Oh, it's too quiet? I'm not sure. Is that better? I don't have I just have a simple mic. Let me check it again. The best test for candida is the organic acid test, and we will be looking at that later. Maybe I'm just talking quietly. I will try to speak up, but I will also look at my settings really fast because I don't want it to be too quiet. Hold on. Oh, I think, let's see. I think the right thing is selected, so I think we might just have to roll with it. Okay. So I might just show you that one since I got some goofed up slides, but I have some other slides here to look at. Okay. Can you see my screen again? I think so. So this is the same woman, and this is her lab test. It's, this are her blood labs. So you cannot run these out of the country, and not every single state, but most states are yes. They're pretty quick to come back, which is nice. You do have to go to a lab to get them, but you may have to pay like a little draw fee depending on the lab, but mostly it's all paid for. And then you get the review. Again, she ran all 3 tests at once, which we call the big 3 test. And these were her results. So she was a little low end on white blood cell count, maybe showing that autoimmunity or some immune weakness, but it was okay. She had some red blood cell markers that were low, but not really like all of them. So we didn't focus on that too much. When we look at this white blood cell count breakdown, we can sometimes see, could there be a parasite? Is the body just kind of off dealing with bacteria? But she really wasn't bad in any of that. She was a little off with her blood sugar. Her fasting blood sugar was 97, and it should be 85 or less. So we weren't totally sure where that was coming from. So I mentioned that she could use a glucometer potentially to start monitoring at home. And then her hemoglobin A1C, which is like a long-term measure of blood sugar, was just like barely high. It's just a little unusual that this one was so high, but this one was not very high. So that was a little bit more of a wait and see with her. Her vitamin D was a little low, but not like crazy low. So I just have her bump it up for like a month or two, especially as we go into the winter. But her thyroid was the most revealing. Now, this doesn't always happen. Sometimes people look decent on their thyroid, but their blood sugar is really off and they weren't expecting it. She has a lot of low numbers all around. So she's feeling fatigued. She's often taking a nap, that kind of a thing. And she has some elevated thyroid antibodies. So this was the first client we had who did not know she had thyroid antibodies, but did test positive. So this was kind of exciting, if bad news, but and these numbers aren't that high. So that's really good. She can, get them back down or manage them, but just, could be 100, could be 1,000, could be much higher. So that's good that she's not too high. This says low, but it should say high, actually. This is her TSH. It's just mean the body is pushing harder to make the thyroid gland work. So that was really interesting for her. And this is the same woman's Dutch test. So I think here we're seeing this thyroid pattern. She's making a lot of cortisol, but there isn't much available to her. So she's feeling tired. It's like the body is slowing the metabolism and the energy available here in this section of the test. The overall, she is menopausal, but even still, she's not making a lot of sex hormones. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And she's, she is feeling tired from this lack of cortisol. So we really need to go back to her thyroid. She was one case where I did recommend that she see a local doctor about getting some hormones or taking some thyroid medication. Just because of where she's at in her case, I really think she'll feel a lot better from that, and she doesn't have to do it forever. But doing like the root cause treatment of the Hashimoto's, even though we will do that, it's slow and you're not going to get a lot more energy anytime soon. So it's better to work on some shortcuts if people are comfortable with that. Sometimes a little thyroid medication will make people feel a lot better. So I don't say that very often, but I did say that to her. So here's more about her sex hormones. Again, this is the Dutch test. It's a urine test that you take at home and you pee on this paper and then you just mail it back in. It's pretty easy. There are a few restrictions before the test. You can't drink as much water, that kind of a thing. So right from the top, this woman isn't making enough DHEA, hormone precursor. She's just sort of low. Everything's low for her. And we see this a lot. A lot of people think they're too high and this and that, and we'll see some other cases, but actually what's more common is just people being low. So she's low in DHEA, she's low in testosterone, she's low in estrogen. It might be, what she's mainly complaining about, maybe low energy. She may have already given up on having any sex drive. But really, we want at any age to feel energy and sex drive. And sometimes people aren't putting that on the priority, but actually when you give that some priority, everything's going to start to feel so much better. You're going to have more energy. You're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to have better muscle mass when you get that testosterone up too. So I think I may have recommended one supplement we sell does have a little DHEA. So it can be a nice over-the-counter way to boost this. I'll show you more about a different client for this section, but this melatonin score could be higher. It's more a indication of gut health than brain health. So as her gut gets healthier, hopefully she'll make more melatonin, get a good night's sleep. Yeah, this is the last page of her test, and everything looked pretty good here, but test for some B vitamins, some detox markers, some neurotransmitters, some oxidative stress. So sometimes you find something interesting on that page. And this page they always have in the Dutch is kind of hard to read, but you can sometimes see where pathways are breaking down. We'll see more of that later. So this woman, now we've seen her Dutch, her stool test and her blood test. And I don't have any of her private information here, but you can see that I write out the findings of all the tests. So she has that forever. And, let's see, we're still kind of going through that. And then this is her protocol. We have a library with different handouts. I get pretty specific on things she's supposed to do. Some little kind of DIY treatments, and then some supplements. Some she might already own. Some I definitely want to get from our shop because they're very particular. We give her a follow-up schedule. And there's more notes. I don't print all her notes for privacy, but yeah, that gives you an example of it's really like a lot of information you're getting, and you can share it with other practitioners. And it's very focused because we're basing it on a combination of her symptoms and the results that we're seeing. So a lot of people think they have high estrogen. So I have a couple examples of that, although, like I said, we actually don't see that often. But this was a teenager we saw, and we're happy to see teenagers who've been cycling a couple years. We can also see men. They don't, it's just a one day. Obviously, you're not cycling. It's different, but you can do the same test. So she probably has polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's pushing up a lot of hormone production for her, right, kind of from the top down. She's also got some cortisol patterns that are a little off. I think you'll see that better later. She's kind of stressed and has a lot of schoolwork. She's having weight loss resistance. She's having some testosterone here that can make for acne and can be just raised in PCOS. So PCOS, let me see if I can explain it. Multiple cysts on the ovaries, more androgens produced like testosterone. You can get some acne and hair growth and really irregular periods, which he's having as well. So this sex hormone page, again, just showing a lot of high numbers, a lot of hormones being produced. She's also got some low melatonin. Yeah, and this is nothing really too much to pay attention to, but I don't know, it's nothing too crazy here really for her, just looking at cortisol patterns. And then this client is older, but it does have high estrogen. You can see here, she's also got a little cortisol pattern being off. You can see when she wakes up, her cortisol is already quite high. It could be from an infection that her body is dealing with at night. And I printed this to kind of for you to see. This is pretty hard to see, but it makes you wonder, why is she producing so much estrogen, right? So these are some of the pathways that could explain that. These different enzymes may be overactive in her production here. So this takes some more digging when there's this high level, high estrogen production. I suppose it's possible. Let me look at her. Yeah, she could have PCOS also because her testosterone is still pretty high. So she could be an older case PCOS. And she is high in these higher testosterones here too, these DHT and stuff. So this actually just might be another PCOS case. And it can be aggravated. Oh no, that's the young client. Whoops, where's my older client? I went too far. Oh, I don't have all her pages. So anyway, we can wonder if this lady might be, I'm listing some pages again, if she might be PCOS also. Any questions about any of that? I have one more section to show you. So I like looking at these, hormones plus more hormones in the blood, plus gut test because it can really put a lot of pieces together, as we just saw. And the last kind of group of tests I'm going to show you is mold and toxins. So I am posting this in our mold group. Hopefully some people can see it there if they think about testing. This woman ran all 4 of our toxins tests. So level 1 would just be you test for mold only. Level 2 is testing for the mold test plus the organic acid test. And level 3 tests for mold, organic acids, glyphosate, and other chemical toxins. It's a pretty great one to get that much information. And I also just really love the oat test. It sort of depends on your background and your history, what all you decide to test for. So this woman has some current mold exposure, but it's not like right up in our face all the time. It's like in a guest bathroom. So she's in this red zone for some positive mold toxins, but it's not off the chart. So some people are literally off the chart, and that means they're really being exposed to mold, often in their home, and they may have the genetics to not clear it. There's actually like a lot of different factors that can help us detox. So when I see this, I think, oh, she's enough to be sick, certainly, but she's not off the chart, and she's not being exposed like crazy, super high. Let me just check the chat. If there is mold, does it come up as candida? It doesn't come up as candida, but they often come up together, if that's what you mean. And I think we're going to see that in her case. So earlier, oh no, I didn't cover it because my GI maps were screwed up, but I had a woman test recently her gut because she has mold, and she had candida come up on her GI map. And this woman, you'll see it in her oat test. So that's like, this is a little stronger. The mold plus oat is a little stronger if you're dealing with a pretty, you're sure it's like a mold case. But this other woman I mentioned, she already knew she had mold. She just also wanted to test her gut. And there was, stuff that we found there. I have to redo those gut slides. So the mold test is just a few pages long. It does give some information at the end about avoiding mold in foods and how to detox. So that's nice. Sauna, glutathione, antioxidants, rosemary oil are some of the options there. And then this is the chemicals test. It's pretty long. This woman, it wasn't that high in that many of them. So it's just always like a crapshoot what you're going to get. Usually if it's in the 75th percentile, we start paying more attention to it. So we're all going to be positive in some chemicals. It's just how it is. And then some people are high in a bunch of them, some are not. So for her, I think this one was high. Could be from dry cleaning, but I don't think she was telling me that. She works in a hospital environment, so it could be something there. Sometimes it's hard to find where it came from, and you just have to detox. And now her body's already dealing with mold, so it makes it harder to detox all the other things. Potentially. One lady had a lot of mold, but she was clearing all her chemicals. So this one was fairly high too, but still not 75th percentile. I wanted to show you this marker. It's not for a chemical, but it's for a marker of mitochondrial damage that you don't want to be high in. And it's often high because of high pesticides and stuff. So she was looking pretty good there, although her glyphosate was very high, off the range. So this woman has a reverse osmosis water. She mostly eats organic. She doesn't eat a lot of meat, although she just recently started to eat some meat. Could be from grains, but again, it's like hard to, hard to know how she had so much when she tries to be clean. So yeah, I might need to talk to her about grains actually. But we're getting exposed to this stuff even when we try to eat organic, is the truth of it. So the glyphosate is just a quick one-page test. And then we can get into her organic acids. So organic acids are metabolites, like waste products found in the urine. And some of them are from the human body and some of them are from infections. So this first page, she has 2 markers high that indicate she has yeast and fungus in her GI tract. And we already know she has mold. So these things go together. And she's like your other question, Amanda, like we're seeing mold and candida or some yeast with her. Not too surprising. Well, luckily she didn't have any of these Clostridia infections that can also go with the mold. She did have some oxalates being high, and that could just, again, be from the mold or candida, or it can be from a high oxalate diet from like almonds and spinach and stuff. But I tend to like maybe like focus more on the mold and diet, especially if she doesn't have any like symptoms of high oxalates. I think I may have told her to do low oxalates for a month or 2. We should be able to eat a wide variety of foods, right? So I think mostly what's driving this oxalate thing up high is these infections. So it's more important to focus on these infections. She had some markers off here about her mitochondria. So she maybe has the need for some CoQ10, some mitochondrial damage. Not surprising with the mold. And then she's got a marker that's showing that she could have yeast or she needs glutathione. Then she's got some high markers here. That's probably because she eats a high fat diet. But it can also be from candida that this ketones could be produced. So just another like potential there. This vitamin C being low, they said it's usually not accurate. I was just pointing out here that she looked okay in glutathione here. So earlier we saw she might need glutathione, but here it looks like she's okay. So, still things like glutathione on CoQ10 are supportive when you've been exposed to toxins. But, again, it may be better with her to focus on some other ways to detox, like detoxing the candida and certainly clearing the mold itself. This can be low from low vitamin D, but there's some other reasons as well. And this is her summary. So again, she's got all this information to keep and look at later. And we have, again, a lot of resources about mold and detox for private clients. Her protocol is not too complicated. I always include sauna, binders, glutathione, or adding in daily electrolytes per my other coach, Mickey. You tend to urinate more when you have mold toxins, and you need to get extra electrolytes. We talked a little bit about like detoxing and supporting digestion, and the other pages I didn't give to you, but yeah, these tests are super interesting. And especially if you've got kind of a complex case and you don't know where the toxins are coming from, it's really interesting to see. If you've got chronic candida, if you suspect mold, these are really lovely tests. So any questions about any of those? I'm going to go to Facebook and look for questions too. Sorry, it's like a little lag time here. Okay, I don't see any right now on Facebook. Any here on the webinar? What do you think? Any impressions? I don't know if any of these I've actually run with any of you. I don't see any names that are super familiar for lab clients. But again, all these tests are available over the weekend at $50 off. If you are out of the country, you may want to do some research now to see, you know, if we can ship to you, what the situation is. We're happy to help. I feel like it's getting harder and harder, but yeah, you can buy them individually. All of them you can buy individually. We just have the big 3 bundled as an option. And then like that mold test has 3 levels. So you don't have to do all of it. You can just do one of them. If you wanted to say run the gut test and just the mold test, you could do it that way. So lots of options. Yeah, good question. I thought that was going to take a long time, but I got to rush through it. Also, some of my gut slides are goofed up, so I have to rescan those. I had to get everybody's name off them, so I was trying to figure that all out. Well, thanks for being on, everyone. I think we do have the next 2 weeks of guests. We've got somebody talking about exercise after 50, and like optimizing that, you know, as you're getting older and you work out a little differently for different kind of results. And then what else do we have coming up? Oh, next week we have a one on the sauna. We have one with Connie Zach of Sunlight, and then we'll also have a sauna promotion with Sunlight. And I'm not totally sure what the promotion is, but there will be a promotion, and that's the sauna I own. And again, every detox protocol I do includes the sauna. You don't have to buy one. You can go to your gym or do whatever you want, but you do have to use the sauna for me when you're working with me, because it just works. It's really important and effective. So even if you're not sure if you have toxins, you're not sure if you have mold, having a sauna or using a sauna is just a great idea for longevity and stress reduction and detox. So tune into that one next week. And if there's no more questions, I'm going to wrap it up. You can always ask us a question privately, or if you want to preview the tests, they are at hormonedetoxshop.com. And then there's a new blog that came out today about all these tests. So if it was a lot to take in and you want to learn more, go to bridgetdanner.com, and right on the main page, we'll have this most recent blog, which is called The Best Functional Lab Test or something like that. Thanks again. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks for learning with me. Bye.